Welcome everybody on YouTube and those who are joining the replay on Facebook. Today we're going to talk about connecting in light, as light, and with light. We're going to get real into intuition and how you live your life now in this narrative that's going around of fear or chaos, whatever. You're going to have to rely on your intuition more than ever. You're going to have to be open to the synchronicities that present themselves to you more than ever. So I'm going to wait a few minutes for people to get on and to focus on what we're going to be talking about, which I think is an incredible topic. And I'm going to share some of my life and some of what I've done to bring me to this place to be more in tune with my intuition, which I think is going to be really necessary. Hi, Pris. Let me wait a while for people to get on. I hope you're having a good weekend. I do these on Saturdays. Hi, Saloma, because right now it's the most convenient for me. So, the next topic that I'm going to talk about, I might switch to Fridays. I don't know. But today the topic is really personal because I truly believe, as I've said at the beginning of those, that you're going to have to rely a lot of being in your intuitive self, of listening to the synchronicities that the divine mind is showing to you, because in the midst of fear or chaos, you're going to have to forego the narrative. You're going to have to walk in peace, live in peace, be in peace, and that's going to take some stepping out on your part, because we've been trained. Hi, Kathleen. We've been trained to just rely on our linear senses, rather than really going into our heart and checking into our heart, where our mind of what we perceive is in coherence with the heart, and then we move in action. Maybe you're supposed to do a certain thing today. Maybe you're not supposed to be in a certain place. Hi, Rita. Maybe you're not supposed to board that plane. Maybe you're not supposed to take that trip. Maybe you're supposed to do this today or stay at a place where you're going to meet somebody potentially that's going to open doors. Yes, those are all things. And every spiritual text, whether it's Buddhist texts, Christian texts, the Torah, whether it's Indian texts, whether it's anything Rosicrucian, Kabbalah, Kabbalion, they all talk about movement in the light and connecting outside of this 3D reality in which we live. So let's get started. And greetings to those who join on the replay. So I want to just give you some thoughts I've had for the past year. I keep hearing these words, integration and amalgamation. Okay, so integration is combining all your experiences and don't see them as fragmented. Okay, how did this apply to the wholeness of your being? How did this affect you? Because it all affects you. You cannot deny that you go through certain things, but what do you do with those things when you go with them? For instance, grief or anxiety. Do you get healed? Do you incorporate them into your wholeness and love? Do you forgive? Do you be angry? Do you live in anxiety? When you integrate those, what's produced is an amalgamation, and that is called a new birth. It's not walking down an aisle. It's not having it come from someone else. The word amalgamation means that when two or more companies come together, they birth something new. Well, what about my life? When I integrate all my experiences, do I define myself by all the fragments of my experiences, or is something birthed that is the new birth and the whole of who I am? I believe I am the amalgamation. And I believe that what I'm birthing as a new birth is flowing from all those points in time that brought me to this point in time. And I don't live there. I don't consistently deconstruct. I don't continually see myself as a victim. I walk forward in the revelation that everything in my life has contributed to the whole, whether I've liked it or not. So the point is to keep moving in this new birth that does not come from above. It never did. It comes from within, from the essence of your being. So why don't you look at this year surprising yourself at who you really are? Instead of having people tell you who you are, government or religion or anything dictate to you the parameters by which you operate, why don't you get very intuitive and start living a life that is out of the mind prison that people want to put you in and out of a herd mentality where you just become one of many? Why don't you be you this year? And why don't I be me? And I'm going to talk to you about some experiences I've had that people downplayed. They thought they were ridiculous. But what they did was they brought me to this place so that I truly realized how to flow in intuition and how to listen to that inner gut feeling that says, don't do that. And every time I move in that realm, there is something wonderful that happens. So you are born again. Right now, as the earth is shifting, you have a choice, or you are awakening, because we never fully arrive. You are born again into an inner awakening that purifies a life in clarity and purpose into being authentically you. We toss those words around a lot because we've become a social media algorithm robotic group of people, but do you know who you are? Are you fearful of stepping out to be you? Are you cautious about taking a step that denies that linear logic to which you've been trained in, to which I've been trained in? Well, let's go and let's see where this lives. First of all, I want to share with you about consciousness. Consciousness equals light. And when you access higher levels of consciousness, you are moving out of this realm, which many consider a simulation, into a higher realm of consciousness of which there is no time. It is there that you access your intuition that comes from a higher dimension of the divine mind into your gut. It's there that telepathy or remote viewing, if you've never discovered what those things are, it's there that you can connect with people all across the world, that you both connect at a single time in the field to bring you into a divine connection in this reality of the 3D realm. We'll talk about that. So consciousness flows in response to light. So if you are light, but you are living at a low vibrational light, according to a herd mentality, sitting in a pew, everything so many have been taught to do, that you are moving at a very low vibrational light that is not innately you. You are abiding by a consciousness that abides by a linear representation of everything. Have you ever risen above that to actually see things that can't be seen with the natural eye or hear things that can't be heard with your five senses? Have you ever stepped in that direction? I've done it so many times, and the past 5 years, I've found myself a little bit shut down, but I feel that the reason I'm speaking this message is because I'm coming out again, and I hope that you listen and it challenges you to move beyond your understanding. When consciousness flows in the speed of light, it's flowing in a linear reality. Science proves it, 186,000 miles per second. It is captured in a linear reality. That is time. That is why you see it step by step by step. But what if you start to move outside of time? See, the intellect, our linear mind, is an aspect of consciousness that is limited by the speed of light. When I sat in a church, it was a very low vibrational light. That's why I left. It was a herd mentality and a mind prison that wants to keep you low enough to actually believe that the power is not in you, that the power is dictated by a hierarchy trying to tell you who you are, how you move, and how you be. That's a very low level of consciousness. It's a herd mentality that ushers you in and brings you out. So the intellect is an aspect of consciousness that is limited by the speed of light in the 3D realm. When we interpret it reading spiritual texts, if you're a Christian, you read the Bible, it is the most unspiritual interpreted textbook I've ever read. If you read other aspects of spiritual texts, they are so in tune with energy, so in tune with intuition. And yet it's not that the Bible is not. It's just that how it has been taught by a narcissistic, greedy group of people that have brought us down to a level of very low vibrational light. Not everyone, but many. So in this flow of light at this realm, you expect only what you see. So you respond to narratives all around you that promote fear, anxiety, health concerns, everything, not knowing that in your divinity, you access higher realms of consciousness. So in these higher dimensions, in these places where the speeds are greater than the 3D realm, time slows down. Einstein showed that I'll tell that in a minute. Time slows down in higher speeds of consciousness. That's why you access the field with telepathy. You access the field with clairvoyance. Jesus did it. Paul did it. Peter did it. All the great spiritual masters did it. Yet we deny that it's a reality, and we label it something inane as demonic, thereby keeping people in a very low vibrational. Why? To control them. That's what they do. So in these higher dimensions of light, outside of time, is where meditation brings you. It's where intuition brings you. It's where the divine mind presents a synchronicity and says, move through it. But in fear, you go, I can't do that. I can't just pick up and go to that place, because you're bound by a very low dimensional, low vibrational light in lower consciousness. So what happens is that you don't awaken things within you. You don't awaken that aura within you. You don't heal those chakras within you, which are shown to be accurate. And yet we were taught that they were out of the realm because they didn't appeal to our linear understanding or the means of control. I'm just being honest. I've been in the mix long enough. So when you connect with light, you're in the light, you're as light, and you're being light in whatever situation you find yourself in. Whether intuition leads you out, whether synchronicities provide open doors, however you move as the light, you are going to affect the atmosphere in which you go, because you have a field of energy around you, and you have an aura, and you have chakras that are energy centers connected to glands inside of you. Illness is caused by misplaced chakras. There's so many ways to develop this, and you can start your search on your own. But today, I just want to talk about moving in intuition and moving in a higher consciousness. So when you connect with light in the field, outside of this realm of connection, your thoughts in the mind ask you to be coherent with your heart to move in action. You see, if the thoughts from the field, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, if you have an impulse, if you have a gut feeling, if you know you're supposed to do something and they stay locked in your mind from fear, then they're never going to be coherent in your heart. And the heart is what supplies the electromagnetic energy of emotion to be in coherence with the mind. The heart is more powerful than the brain will ever be. So when there is a coherence with the brain and the heart, you move in the reality of the field and you do something. You don't just sit pontificating, always thinking of what if. You're going to move despite the fear. Do it even if you're fearful. Just keep moving forward and get rid of that energy. The universe has your back. God has your back. And it is essential in the days ahead that you don't play the game that's being perpetrated around the planet. That you see with different eyes, hear with different ears, and feel. Because we are ascending in a new timeline that is going to leave the old, let them go their way. We are going in the way of knowing we are divinely human. So we're going to talk about this intuition. So when you connect as the light, being the light, you're going to connect with your thoughts. You're going to connect with your physical body. You're going to connect knowing that you have an energy field that can extend way outside of you. That when you walk into the midst of darkness or low vibrational light, you can change it by just knowing the energy on you. You don't have to argue. You don't have to prove yourself. You just have to be the light. And when you realize the power of your chakras, and you realize that the healing of your chakras goes from the root chakra to the crown chakra, you're going to take times in meditation that God would open that pineal gland to see what can't be seen. And many people have called what's a Kundalini awakening. This is real. This is true. It is not to be taken for granted. It is not woo-woo. It is the reality of our existence on this planet, accessing higher realms. If you don't want to do that, then just be human. Never know you're divine. Never know that you have capabilities way beyond your ability to understand them. And I'm going to tell you some things that I've done that other people downplayed. They thought it was stupid. They thought it was woo-woo. It wasn't. It helped me to move intuition and showed me how to fine-tune my intuition to be the light. So today, I want to talk about this, and I want to make it personal. And because I come from a background where I read the Bible voraciously, and now I am exploring also other spiritual texts, I do want to go back to a specific example in the book of Acts where Peter connected with Cornelius in the field before they ever connected. If you read that chapter accurately, you can explain that chapter in light of consciousness. But we were never taught that. We were taught that it was always out there, that we had to look up or look down or look around and seek something or someone outside of ourselves. Now, let me tell you something about myself. I was so bored with church. Why? It wasn't the teachings I was born in. If there were some really powerful spiritual leaders that were entrapped in a system that they just didn't want to leave for whatever reason, it became to me a mind prison. It became to me herd mentality. And I remember one day watching Benny Hinn surrounded by thousands of people in an amphitheater and saying, I got no words. How in the hell are these people putting on stage one person to show people get healed while they all look on voraciously hungry, hoping to get on stage for that prophetic word or from that hierarchy that is so above them that they've placed themselves in greater dimensions of light? Were you never told that you didn't need that? Were we never told that it was all a bunch of BS? So the Essenes, as I said last week, had a similarity. They were decimated by the Roman Empire. They were decimated by Constantine, by Josiah, by the Babylonians, and they retreated. And when they tried to come out, that is when the Gnostic Gospels were decimated. That's when all spirituality was put on hold until all those things were discovered again. And it is the Gnostic Gospels with Philip and Thomas and Mary Magdalene that begin to show us the connection with a higher realm that was totally destroyed by the Vatican, by evangelical Christianity. Shame on them. I mean, break free, people. Never go back into any of those settings again. You will never find yourself alive and the light in those settings. Not when someone is speaking to you in a herd mentality from a position of whether it's patriarchy or leadership telling you who you are. The only way that you will be the amalgamation and the new birth in this coming timeline is when you go into yourself and you see the integration of all the pieces of your life and realizes those are not fragments that bring me down. Those are fragments with which I discover myself and the innate power within me. So church was boring to me. It was. I just kept taking chances and everybody kept telling me, you're too much, you're too much. I would have to talk a whole hour on some of the things I did that I didn't feel that the people didn't approve of me. They were scared of me and they thought it was just really dumb, some of the things I was doing, until I began to show them the fruit of some of the chances I was taking in my intuition. So I'm going to tell you something I did, and I don't know if I've ever told people this, but I got to the point where I started listening to my intuition, and what the divine mind would begin to tell me is to travel out, to take what I was learning and not just be inundated with words and a linear understanding, but put it into practice. So one year I was given 7 cities to go to in the United States. They were specific cities. And in each city, I was given the ability to just walk around and be the light and pray that the true revelation of Jesus and what he stood for would come to the consciousness of people. You know what I did? I was in Miami, in Key West, I kid you not, and I was standing in Key West on the farthest point, and I tore out the book of Revelation out of my Bible, standing there, and intuitively I tore it out, bound it in a rope, and threw it into the sea and said, that is not the end, that is the beginning. So everywhere I went, I prophesied light, I prophesied life. What was it doing? Some people didn't even know what I was doing. I was doing it for myself to engage in an intuition that took me above my linear understanding. Something else I did that I don't know if I've mentioned before, I took 7 rocks, and on the 7, are there 7 I am statements? I forget. I put the I am statements of Jesus on every rock. They were about this big, and I just wrote, I am the light, I am the way, I am the good shepherd. And I was living in Finland at the time, and then also here, and I've been to Rome 3 times. 3 times I've been to Rome. And what I felt the divine mind was saying to me is that the corruptness, the narcissism, and the misalignment of truth from this organization has bound people to the max and has subdued the essence of our divinity in so many ways. It is not a subject I'm going to teach about. It did not matter to me how it happened. It mattered to me that my assignment at that time was to take those 7 rocks and to leave them in various places. I left them in the Vatican. I left them in the catacombs. I left them at the Trevi Fountain. I mean, it was astounding. I had 2 people with me that traveled with me at the time, and it was why did I do it? Because I was just playing my part in this beautiful, unscripted life in the Spirit. It did not matter to me what people thought. But do you want to know something? I traveled the world on my intuition simply because I took steps outside of my linear understanding. I didn't lack for money. I didn't lack for time. I simply went where I felt God was speaking to me to go, and joy overcame me. And everything just began to blossom. I remember being in the catacombs, and I remember sometimes I had to make fast decisions with these rocks. And so as we were walking through the catacombs, I quickly put the rock on the ledge. Why did I do that? Because the revelation of Jesus, it was my interpretive act in my own intuition to say, y'all got it wrong. I am one part of the grand design. But as far as being one part of the grand design, I'm going to do my part and say, you have never interpreted this ascended master as he should be interpreted. You have locked him down into a narrative, caused people to deconstruct and hate him when he is so full of incredible wisdom. It's unbelievable. So those are just 2 things I've done. I've done many things that people laughed at, but every single time I did it, it connected me with people in time. So we'll talk about Peter and Cornelius in a bit. I also just want to say this. Time slows down at or near the speed of light. That's why in this linear realm, we experience something called time. That's why we're always looking to the future, or we're always looking to the past to define us in the now. But we are divinely human. Therefore, we connect out of this realm into a higher realm while being in our incarnation. So what happens is that you just live your life according to time. You live, you die. Bullshit. I'm never going to die. I'm never going to die. My body may fade away at the right time, but my consciousness is eternal and unlimited and will go back into the field. I personally do not believe in reincarnation, and I will share that at another point. I believe there are greater realms of consciousness we move into. So in that reality, time slows down. So if I experience time slowing down, I never open myself up to any intuition. I just know that tomorrow is going to be as boring as today. I'm going to go to my job. I'm going to hope to be saved. I'm going to keep myself out of hell. All those ridiculous beliefs because I'm bound and captured by time. But what if, being in time, you are not of time? What if you access higher realms? Because when I was doing all these acts I've done over these past 20 years, I always felt somewhat like in a different realm. I always went, and I didn't even have to tell anybody. I felt like my vision was attuned. Like when God would say, go meet this stand at, yes, God actually within me said, go stand at a particular street at a particular hour. It was no different than Jesus with the woman at the well. Do you believe you can do that? It's very possible. And if you're joining late, please go back to the beginning and listen, because it's really, I believe this is good. I love this. So time, you see everything in duality. Good, bad, right, wrong, linear, fear. It's always back and forth in duality, preparing for destruction. What's going to happen? Fear keeps you locked in that. You don't want to live that way. You don't really want to live that way. You are abundant. You are abundant. Do you know that? And I'm speaking to myself. So as you increase in light, you increase in potential and engagement in the field. Because the field, the divine mind source, it's all potential. There is no bad thing for you in the field. Do you know how to access it through meditation? Do you know how to access it through times of silence? Do you know how to access higher levels of consciousness by being in meditation and in nature? And I will talk, like I said, I'll go into the chakras and the auras and everything next week. It is not my field of expertise, but I'm learning more and more about it. I was moving out in intuition before I knew anything. Let me tell you the first thing that enlightened me to the fact that we are energy and we have energy fields and there's light in us. It was when when my husband passed away 5 years ago and I underwent all that grief, I had bowel problems. Well, that's my root chakra. Everything, folks, had been stripped away from me. There is a spiritual application to everything you're feeling in the alignment of your body. When I got my root chakra in order and said, Deborah, you don't have to fear. You are abundant. You are abundant. You are all that is needed. You are the answer to everything in your life. That it cleared up. And every time I get under stress, sometimes that rises up and it teaches me that my body is telling me in this energy in my root chakra, do not fear. We got this. So another thing is if our consciousness is operating, and remember, consciousness is light. If it's operating at a top speed, you experience a sense of no time. So if it is operating at a lower speed in this linear realm, you experience time one way. So the speed of light determines the state of consciousness. And it moves in what's called harmonic multiples, which is like those Russian nesting dolls. We're in one speed as a fractal. God calls us to rise, come up in awareness and consciousness, and it's built upon our current level of light, and we rise. Do you know that the Essenes believed that they lived with angels, and these angels were able to morph in and out of existence? Do you know that they believe the human body can morph in and out of existence? And that is the height of consciousness. We'll talk about that in the future. That astounds many. I don't even believe we think that's possible, but it is. So now, let's talk about acts. I was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning last night thinking, because I do not want you to see this. I have so many people I talk to that just abhor the Bible, and they deconstruct it. They don't want to hear another thing about Jesus. Well, that's not me. I just don't want to hear it how they taught it. I want to hear it along with many other spiritual texts, which we talked about last week, that Christianity is really not the Christianity that I believe is what we're supposed to be following. I think the Essenes had it more together than anything near what we're following today. And it was not set into time as the end-all be-all. It formed a flow from ancient times to right now. And so where we've tripped up is that we don't see it as a flow. We see it as the end-all be-all, and that's a whole nother story. I do not see it that way. So when spirit or the divine mind or my essence says go read the Bible, I don't balk at it. I know that I'm going to, I receive teaching from wherever I'm being led, and it expands and it integrates into my life in this new birth. I don't want to teach things from a linear response. I want to engage your curiosity and your brilliance to know that you can do this and more. So let's talk about Acts. I really got to tell you, I really love this. I've always loved this. Let's talk about when Peter and Cornelius meet in the book of Acts. But before they meet, they connect in the quantum field through telepathy, through energy, through clairvoyance. But let's look at some of the way the Mirror Bible describes it. And don't leave me now. I'm not saying, I was up during the night thinking, do I want to go this way? Well, yes, I do, because it's me. So in the book of Acts, it says, Acts 9, it says, there was a man named Cornelius who lived in Caesarea. One day about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he had a vision. Well, what's a vision? It is a sight divinely granted in an ecstasy of light. I don't know if you've ever considered that when you have a vision, it comes from inside of you, from the connection in the field. Do you know there are some people who believe that there is an imaginal realm, which I'm looking into now, through the book of Mary Magdalene, where they say Mary met Jesus in the imaginal realm. Met him. It wasn't a vision. It wasn't outside of herself. It wasn't telepathy, but there was a place where they met in a vision, Mary says. Well, so Peter has this vision and Cornelius has this vision, and it didn't come from outside of them. Why? They were prepared to receive the vision. How many times a day are you being hit by intuition, but you're just not prepared? You don't know it, you don't see it, You don't plan for it. You don't encourage it. So synchronicities are coming to you every day. Visions are coming to you. Ascension realities are coming to you, but we bypass them because we're so locked down in a low vibrational light. So this vision was divinely granted. This vision came from the divine mind because it was going to prove to be a co-joining of two people who had no idea that they were supposed to do this. So this man, Cornelius, says an angel of God, as real as his next door neighbor, came to him and called him by name. Do you know that the universe isn't going to come in and say, hey, Judy, it's Deborah. No, the universe knows you so innately. You are one, you are entangled. So anything the divine mind calls you to do, to move out of in your intuition, has everything located in it, get this, that is divinely you. That is why your journey might be different than my journey, because it is calling you by name and it's calling you in the essence of your being. So this angel appeared. Well, do you know the Essenes believed they lived with angels? And they believed it was a class of being able to fully morph from a celestial body into a physical body. They believe Jesus did that. They believe Elijah did that. They believe Ezekiel did that. They lived teaching how to move in this human flesh as well as celestial flesh. Well, we can interpret that in light of consciousness. We can see this in a different way. So these angels were higher states of being where their bodies were composed of celestial flesh. They were luminous. They could shapeshift. They are real in however you define them. They were a messenger from the divine mind, maybe an ascended master, maybe an extraterrestrial, I don't know. But an angel appeared to him. It didn't appear in his thoughts, people. I believe there was a reality. Anytime energy comes, there is a reality in the energy. So then Cornelius, it says, stared hard, wondering if he was seeing things. Before you move out in this intuition, fear is going to come upon you because you're going to break the narrative that has tried to control your life. Do you not? I felt kind of dumb doing some of the things I was doing, but there was something in me that said, Deborah, this is innately you. Keep going. If nobody sees it, if nobody knows it, keep going. So Cornelius says to the angel, what do you want? And the angel says, according to the Mirror Bible, your prayers and neighborly acts have brought you to God's attention. What is that? That's love energy, without expecting anything back. He was moving in love energy that was going to connect him with someone else, because anytime you move in the purity of love and light, not a new age version of love and light, but when you move in the purity of that energy, you are going to have divine connections, you are going to receive divine messages, you are going to live life at a totally different level. And Cornelius and Peter were both getting ready to move into that level. So here's what you do, the angel says, send men to Joppa to get Simon, the one everyone calls Peter. So, see, the universe sees you, knows you, and extends invitations to you, expanding in light through synchronicities. And so thoughts can be transmitted simultaneously or by will from one mind to another by telepathy outside of the linear realm at a higher speed of consciousness. So while the angel was talking to Cornelius, the divine mind simultaneously, because there was no time, was talking to Peter's awareness in the higher dimensional light. So non-locality, which is the field, which is all the energy, which is the essence, which is the all outside of this incarnation, and the energy within this incarnation allows this to happen within your consciousness. And what is consciousness? It's the speed of light. It is light. So when you open yourself up to this, you realize your consciousness is light waves, and light waves are non-local. So it takes into intention the will of two people. So Cornelius says, okay, and maybe that's where you get stuck. Would you say okay if the divine told you? And I'm not talking justifying all actions because you feel like your ego. This is not ego. This is intuition. This is intuition from which energy will flow and fruit will come in your life. I'm not talking about doing this and justifying by, like, I used to know this person years ago who wanted to go on all these mission trips saying God was giving this person all this money and it was divine, when in actuality, she would stand next to a person and say, I don't really have the money and I want to go on a mission trip. You don't prepare the way for this, folks. You don't use your ego to prepare the way for this. Ego is not involved in this. Cornelius didn't know what was going to happen. He just obeyed and said yes. So the next day, it says 3 travelers were approaching the town and Peter went on the balcony to pray. He fell into a trance. What is a trance? It's a feeling of ecstasy. It's a feeling of higher consciousness. He was outside of himself while being in himself, accessing higher realms. It was not fragmented. He was that which he was experienced. It was a heightened realm of consciousness. He experienced a mystic self-transcendence. Do you think he woke up that day thinking that was going to happen? I don't think so. There's something about synchronicity that are divine surprises that strike at the heart of our fear and strike at the heart of our belief system. But they always have our back if they're not based in ego, trying to make a name for ourselves or whatever. I don't go that way. So a voice came and it said, it gave instructions to what the religious programming in Peter had kept him locked down. And he saw a vision where the skies opened and something that looked like a huge blanket lowered by ropes at the 4 corners settled on the ground, and every kind of animal and reptile and bird you can think of was in it. Then a voice said, "Go to it, Peter. Kill and eat." Well, that struck at everything about Peter's programming. Everything. I can't do this. He resisted over and over. And finally, the Mirror Bible says that God says, just go do it, Peter. So when you're getting ready to move in intuition, it is going to come at the heart of your narrative of religious programming, being as in a herd mentality, never stepping out. Don't think you have it in you. Don't think you can do this. And yet Peter was confronted to get rid of this religious programming. Get rid of it, Peter. The speed of your consciousness determines that you're going to see the whole picture. Are you ready to see the whole picture? Or, Peter, are you going to stay locked in dualism? Are you going to pretend like you didn't see this? And Peter kind of thought about it, and he realized he had to release himself from knowledge in the past. All the literal dogma and traditions which applies to us and acts as a deterrent to awareness. Moving in a higher realm of consciousness, it does not describe the present. The knowledge of all the rules and regulations is not going to take you into this new timeline. You have to say goodbye to those, thank them for bringing you to this place, integrate. Why was this suffering? Quit griping about Christianity. Stop deconstructing. Stop calling everything trauma. Get healed and move into your life, because there is a massive victim mentality where all we want to do is blast Christianity. Well, don't. See where it brought you to. See the beautiful truths that are embedded in it and other spiritual texts. It is in there if you look for it. And if your intellect takes you a different way, you're going to live in duality, and that is how you will live out the rest of your life. And basically, you will just be ready to hold off because you don't want to die too soon. But when you enter this realm, you enter a realm of eternity that conquers death. It conquers death in your mind, it conquers death in your heart, and you don't have any fear of it anymore. And so Peter then said, "Lord, I've never done that." And then it came a second time, and it's as if God says it's okay, it's okay. This happened 3 times, and then the blanket was pulled back up into the skies. So Peter was detached from his self-image, and he was asked to be open to new or different thoughts, new or different experiences. The decision is always yours. The decision was Peter's. The decision is mine. Will I follow? So Peter began to absorb light at this higher, faster speed of consciousness, accessing higher dimensions. Everything he fought suddenly was laid bare before him, and he saw that the divine mind was calling him to access a higher knowledge in the field, but he didn't know what yet. So there is a certainty of surprise, magic, mysticism. You don't know the whole plan. I didn't know. all that was going to happen when I took these trips. The one trip from Finland taken in my intuition, the result of that was living there for 8 years. I tell you that over and over. I didn't anticipate then when I took the first step. It is the first step of trust, of belief that you are divinely human and greater than anyone can ever tell you. But when you move in that realm, love and joy and peace overwhelms you in any extent. And your experiences may not be mine. I would be anxious to hear what you experience and how you've encountered your intuition, making divine connections when they were not there before, and so many other beautiful things. So Peter, there he was. It says Peter sat there puzzled, trying to figure out what it all meant. Don't do that. You're never going to figure out what it all means. You're not going to get the whole picture, because awareness, you never totally arrive. You're always in the process of awakening. In this realm, you're going into the process. So accept the process, reap the benefits of the joy, flow in that love energy and that power, and astound everyone around you, even though they think you're crazy, which many will. So what he did is he followed the instructions. Peter said, then he was told, go to Cornelius's house. So now you have the picture. In time, they were in separate locations, but out of time, they were already entangled in the quantum field. So Peter says, I gotta go. Cornelius says, someone's coming, bring him to me. So then Peter, lost in thought, because he was still analyzing this, didn't hear a knock on the door where the men were coming from Cornelius. And the spirit, it said, the inner essence says, why don't you go down there? Don't ask any questions. I sent them to you. So Peter goes down and gets on a journey to go to Cornelius. So what happens then is that they tell Peter, we're brought here because an angel was sent to Cornelius to bring you a house because we have to hear what you have to say. Now, people, it isn't that Peter had the only truth, but there are places right now waiting for you, waiting for me. Places, people, waiting to feel our energy, waiting to hear what we have to say, moving in realms and locations, carrying with us a divine message for the people at that moment. It isn't coming from a linear understanding that this is the only way, not in my opinion. What this is saying is that go out and go to those places because you have something to say, and be open if you have someone else intuitively come to you and meet you at a checkout corner at Lucky and says, oh, come outside, I want to tell you something. That's not woo-woo, that's life. That's life in the spirit. That's life in divine essence. And then with wisdom, this is all moving in the flow of wisdom. Wisdom never takes a path of extremes. Wisdom navigates the now to bring you into the best version of yourself day by day by day. So then they go to Joppa. Okay, here it is. Here it is, the beauty of the divine confrontation and meeting. So the minute Peter comes through the door, as soon as those energies, because the field of your energy and the field of another person's energy, knowing you're to connect, they are primed and ready in love, in wisdom, and that energy connected to swirl through the room in a divine essence to where Cornelius is without words. And he jumped on his feet and he fell down on his face worshiping Peter, because I guess he didn't know what else to do. Maybe he was just slain and pulled out by the amount of exuberant joy that affected his heart, affected his emotions, and he just fell down. And Peter says, get up. I'm no different than you. Very wise. So then what happens is Cornelius says, about this time yesterday afternoon, I was praying, and suddenly there was a man right before me flooding. Who was the man? I'm not sure. They don't tell us, and maybe we don't need to know. Is it an ascended being? What is it? I don't think I really need to go into that, but there was a man that stood in front of us and in front of me, and Cornelius, it says, brought you to my attention. I then sent for you. And then Peter explodes. Why did Peter explode? Because when you're in the presence of this divine energy, and you know this is what you're supposed to be doing, when love as an energy overpowers you, that you are without words, that all you are doing is basking in the energy, and it is reaching into every fiber of your being and into every cell of your being, then you know that something mystical and magical is happening in your life. And so then what happens is that Peter is also hit by this energy and begins to exchange in an energy of light, fused in light, and they brings forth the message, and so on and so on and so on. So why did I tell you that? It's very simple. I'm so tired. We need to move past, or I'm going to move past all the constant social virtual exchange. I need human bodies. I want to connect with people. I want to gather. I want to go back to where we gather with 6 or 7 us, where we exchange ideas. I'm tired of this transhumanist movement getting us into such a virtual reality that we deny our own humanness. And make no mistakes, folks, I give no grace to that. I'm reading a book called Dark Aeon right now, and it is exposing so much of the transhumanist AI agenda. Now, where does that leave you? I believe it's inevitable. I believe it's going to happen. I believe we can't stop it. But where does that leave you? Don't give up your divinity or your humanity for anything. Don't subject yourself to a virtual reality again, because you see, energy is communicated also by touch. We hug someone, we love someone, they speak. The energy goes into an unconditional acceptance of what they're speaking, and healing occurs. So what I'm telling you today is find your path. Be open. Get healed. Get healed. See everything that you've gone through, integrate it, accept it, and then amalgamate into this glorious new birth that comes from above. And start on a journey of curiosity, of brilliance, no matter where you live, no matter what your financial status, no matter what you're dealing with physical, there is no excuse. If you're physically limited, ask to ascend into the heights and be close to source so that love energy consumes you. Ask to be transported into another realms. If you're well physically, then ask to move into locations and to meet people and spread the knowledge of this energy. There is all kinds of, what am I saying? It's time for movement. It's time for experience. It's time to get past the words. It's words upon words upon words on these platforms. But what are you doing? What are you doing to make a change in the energy where you live in your life? I believe you are unique, and you are the creative expression of the divine mind. So if this has helped you in any way, if it has challenged you, if it has made you feel uncomfortable, I've achieved my purpose. Because you know what? I am not called to make people feel comfortable. And if it means I look like a fool, then I'm willing to look like a fool and willing to come back and try things. And if they don't work, say, well, that didn't work, because I am moving in the progression of the revelation of my perfection. So I don't say I always get it right, but I do know that I am tired of sitting. But what does that mean? Am I going to go create things? No, absolutely not. I've decided I'm going to turn my days over and just flow again in the revelation of intuition and sees where it brings me. Who can I help? Who can I be about? Like even today, after this Facebook Live, it's early here. You know, it's only 1 o'clock and I've got to go run some errands. I'm always aware, even if I'm at Target getting a salad that I've got to buy, I'm always now becoming very aware of the subtle energy around me. I don't intrude anyone's space to look good, but I am always aware. I'm like, for instance, I was checking out a Costco the other day, and this woman, her energy was so tight, I could feel it. It's like she was the 40-year-old who's been told everything's okay, but she's working her ass off, trying to make ends meet. She can't. The American dream, or whatever was a dream, has eluded her. She's trying to live a life as best as she can. She's tired, she's weary, and she's trying to not be bitchy when you're checking out with her, smiling, because she's working her ass to the bone. And I felt that. And all we did was just send her some love. That's all. Because awaken your perception, your subtle energy, your intuition, and we'll talk more about this next week. This will be an ongoing journey, and I'm currently reading the book of Mary Magdalene by Cynthia Bourgeault, and I just want to keep putting it out there. When I start teaching on Mary Magdalene, I am not doing it to confront all the crap on the patriarchy. I don't care. But the truths that Mary Magdalene preached are so profound that it is the essence of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which is so desperately what we need. The divine masculine will have you sit and listen and never move. But when the masculine and the feminine comes in, I say to you today, what are you going to do with all this? What are you going to do with all this? And I'll leave that with you. And I appreciate and love every single one of you for listening. I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't have the end-all be-all answer, but I am flowing that even as I'm preaching this message, I am getting excited about the future for me. And that's all I want to do. I want to live life in the beauty of the creative expression of my essence. And I want you to also. So you guys have a great weekend. Think about what I said, but think about it in light of who you are. Don't follow me. Don't copy me. You may never go to Italy. Maybe you're going to go to Little Rock, Arkansas. Maybe you're going to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Colorado Springs, Colorado. Maybe you're never going to go anywhere. What is your unique individual path that is suited for you? Because when you move like that, it encourages me. Because that energy expands through you, through me. And that, my friends, is how we change the world. There is no savior coming religiously. There is no governmental savior coming. We are in the midst of a massive shift in this planet. How will you maintain your love and your joy and your peace and say, I'm not listening to the narrative, because as for me, I am going to flow in my divine essence. Thank you guys. I appreciate every one of you. You have a glorious and wonderful weekend until we meet again next week.